It's a pleasure to be sharing stage with three exemplary women, broken gender barriers, and have also are today an epitome of women empowerment in the real sense. So I'd like to begin by a round of applause for the three fantastic women on stage right now. And Dr. Seema, I'd like to begin with you. I have seen some videos of yours, I've seen some interviews of yours, and I have been absolutely fascinated and in awe of what you do. I would like to ask you, when did you think that this was your calling in life, that you would be a commando trainer, and or did this happen to you?
So let me start by saying that my father was a freedom fighter, and as being his little daughter, I often heard stories about his freedom struggle, and that's what spurred me on to wanting to do something for the country. I guess patriotism runs in my blood. But apart from that, I'd like to narrate this story. Once I had gone to my cousin brother's house, and he was reading these commando comics. And I picked up one, and he snatched it from me, and he said, "This is not for girls. This is only for guys." So that's when I was really hurt. I went back home, and I told my dad that I want to read those comics. And, he got me a whole bunch of them, and I read them. Sometimes the learning is very subliminal. So I think that's what stayed in my mind. And I ended up training the commandos of the Indian Forces. I train men, okay? Yes. And then there was this, as a child, I was quite weak and I wanted to get strong. So the only thing I could think of was to learn martial art. So I learned martial art, and I also learned Bruce Lee's art of Jeet Kune Do. I am one of the few senior instructors in the world in Bruce Lee's art of Jeet Kune Do. And there was a chance meeting with a senior police official who happened to talk to me, and he was very impressed. And then he asked me to demonstrate my skills, and later he asked me to invited me to train his force. And then one thing led to the other, and I ended up training the different forces of the country. So I always think that intense desire creates its own talents and opportunities. If you have an intense desire to do something, then life opens up to you. It gives you an opportunity which you need to use, and it also creates the talents in you.
So. Beautifully said, ma'am. And to all the students who are listening, she is India's first and only woman commando trainer. So she's a legend for the armed forces. I think she truly deserves this round of applause.
Thank you.
I'm actually feeling such pride speaking to you, ma'am. And with Meera sitting next to me, Meera, I think before I speak to her, how many of you know about F4 racing? Can you raise your hand? See, Meera, I asked this specifically because a lot of students, I think, don't know what F4 racing is. And she is an F1 racer, and she started as young as 10, I believe. And I don't think you would have realized by that time that this could also be a career, Meera. So just tell us more about that.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here. We are very close to a Formula One circuit.
Okay.
So most of them would know what Formula One racing is. Am I correct? Yes. Yeah, not Formula 4. I started with go-karts. Who knows about go-karting? Most of you would have tried.
Know, yeah.
See, now they know. So I started with go-karting. I was, I think, 8 years old when my father started this go-karting track in Vadodara.
Okay.
And after that, I was just there looking at my brothers drive most of the time. Like ma'am said, it was always like a men's thing that, they are driving, they're enjoying. And I was like, I want to do it as well. And the first time I sat in a go-kart, I went and hit the tire barriers straight into the wall. And I was like, whoa, not meant for me. And slowly, I was like, just so jealous of the facts that my brothers were enjoying so much racing together, and I had to sit outside. So I got over my fear of hitting the barriers. I slowly started learning, and thankfully my brothers helped me a lot. And in just a few months, I started driving better than them. I started competing and I started beating them. So that was something that, my father noticed. And he was always the one who was, pushing me to do things that I enjoyed. And that was speed. Everything that came with speed made me happy. So he asked me if I wanted to take it professionally. And at the age of 9, as you said, nobody knows if you want to take up a career or, you want to do it professionally. So for me, it was more like, oh, I get to miss school. I get to travel a lot. I get to drive a lot. And I get to beat new boys. So, beat new boys. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I got professionally trained later on. And in just let's say a week, I was out there racing professionally at the age of 9. And I remember there was just 2 girls other than me. Out of 100 drivers on track in different categories, it was just 2 or 3 girls who were racing and everybody else were boys. And that was back in 2010. And now I feel at least, that was the reason that I really pushed through that, okay, you know what, I need more females on track. And over the years, at that point of time, it was more about passion. But then once I started winning races, I was like, you know what, let's take this up professionally, make sure that I am on track every year, proving it to everyone that even girls can race and even girls can win races. So yeah, it's been a great journey, and now I can proudly say at least out of 65 now, on grid, there are 5 females. So
I was about to ask you that. Has the scenario changed over the years?
it's slow, but then I feel it's growing. And that's the only thing that matters, that females are coming up into the sport and doing way better than we were doing at that point of
You're
time.
on a beautiful track, and a track that's very, very inspiring for all of us. And I think all 3 of you are. So let me go to Neelima. Neelima, I would like to ask you, reaching a top leadership position in a corporate setup, it doesn't come easy. How has it been for you, and how would you like to describe that journey to our students here?
So firstly, thank you again for having me here, giving this opportunity to interact with such a wonderful audience, clapping so well. So corporate leadership, a lot in conversation in the industry and especially glass ceiling. But I always felt being the part of corporate world, it is more about your own passion and interest first, and the knowledge which you can gather in the beginning years of your career. I started my career with sales, then did marketing, then did product, then did business financials, and then strategy, and then operations, and then finally where you are. So it's not about just saying that, look, I want to do this, but you have to put that 100% time, effort, knowledge into that. The second thing which I felt is over the period of times, networking, getting into meetings, earning your seat on the table to have business discussions, financial discussions, decisions which are important to take, to talk about growth, to talk about innovation, to talk about technology. A lot of these areas, a lot of time, as women, we want to stay away. We are very good at doing jobs when it comes to coordination, when it comes to communication. And the field which is really very good, thriving with women, is marketing and HR and administration. But the moment it comes to financials, the moment it comes to running sales organization, the moment it comes to running technology, manufacturing, and business decision making, and most importantly, taking a CEO position, that's the time when you feel that, can I take this heat more? And that's the time when you back out. So this is the place where you see there is, while corporates are making a lot of effort to get more and more women in leadership, but it's also a lot of ownership on the women themselves, that how do you really be fearless about talking about your vision, your passion, your interests, your career goals, and then going in front and asking for it and putting your 100% towards it. So that's been my journey in corporate towards the leadership.
Nilima, I think it's a question that I would like to ask all of you, but I think I'll ask Meera first. Meera, when we speak about sports and motor racing, is there a gender discrimination that you feel, especially at a time, because you started very young, and I'm sure there must have been a lot of changes by then. But do you think that it is? Did you experience that in motorsports?
I would say I was one of the lucky ones because I had my parents backing me up so strong that even if I faced any problems, they would be the first one to face it first before me. And I was always surrounded with guys. So, for me, it was more like, oh, you want to comment on me being a driver? Or they would, obviously, I understand that at that point of time, there were few females and it was very new for them as well that, oh, there's a girl coming up, alongside us and trying to beat us. And we were all kids. So obviously, one boy would go tell the other person that, oh, you're losing to a girl. How can you do this? So that guy would get annoyed and then they'll try to push me off. But then, it was all the same for me. I was more focused on getting the results and I was more focused on just going ahead. And I would say I feel very lucky and privileged at this point of time in life that now when I say, there's no discrimination, at least in India, when it comes to females in terms of racing. It's been a long journey. And I have a family who actually backs me up on track. Like all the boys now that I race with are my biggest family. And I feel very lucky to have that, because on track, we are the most strongest and most competitive towards each other, but off track we are each other's backbones. So that's the whole point. I feel
Well, that is very nice to hear, because I just get an insight that things are changing. But Dr. Seema and especially Nilima, both of you, I would like to ask. Dr. Seema first. Is it difficult for men to take orders?
So let me tell you that one is that my subject is close quarter battle, which means all fighting that takes place between our soldier and the enemy at a distance of 30 yards. One of the things that it covers is unarmed combat. Then you have shooting and you have tactics, etc., etc. So one is that I was going and training commandos, so I knew exactly that it's a job. I did not underestimate them at all. Second is I would keep my skills honed up. I would work very hard on my skills, whether they were in shooting, whether they would be in unarmed combat. And when I would take an unarmed combat session, I would actually get down and box with them, spar with them, wrestle with them. And there's also something else that I would do, which is called as mob drills, where you stand and you have 4 or 5 of these guys holding your arm, somebody's choking you, choking your neck from behind, doing all that, and they're pushing and pulling you. And you need to actively be able to harness their energy as they're going, at you. And then you need to throw them and you need to push them away. That's the whole thing. But I'd actually do all this. And there's a saying, sometimes you get the bear, sometimes the bear gets you. So, even when I'd box, I'd get punched and I'd punch back as well. But interestingly, I want to tell you a very important story. When I was just about 20, 21. And at that time, I had started learning my martial art and I had started learning Jeet Kune. So I was learning wrestling. And I was very, very, desperate to try it out. So I used to live in Girgam Chowpatty, and every day I would go for a run, and there would be this railway office that would be there. And they would have a small ground like that where I would watch these kabaddi players. They were railway officers. They were must have been about 30, in their 30s. And they would be playing kabaddi with each other. So 2 teams would be there and I would be always watching them. So one day I walked up to one of them and I said, you know what, I also want to participate and in this game. So they just laughed me off, and it's okay, that kind of thing. I kind of persisted. I said, no, please just give me a chance. So they said, okay, fine, you go first. So there were two teams there, one team here and one there. And I went and entered into the other team, and I started moving, and my agility was good, and the way I was moving was good. And while they started to relax, I went deliberately into one side, so they thought they can corner me. And while they came, I just rushed through them, and I went and touched the line, and two of their major players were out. So that's when they said, okay, that's very good, so you can come and join us. So I would regularly go and, use my grappling skills in the kabaddi game. Then some senior officer of theirs came to know, and he said that, you don't belong to the railway team, so I'm sorry, you can't participate. You can't come here anymore. So I decided, okay, and I was kind of quite sad that it ended. But by then, the team players, they told me that, no, since you can't come here, what we'll do, I think they got touched by my enthusiasm. So what they said is that you come, we'll go on to the beach, and on the sand, we will play the game so that you can join us. And that's what happened. So I think that's how it is, when you really have the enthusiasm and you have the jigar in you, then things unfold towards you.
No, but ma'am, I completely understand. You had it in you. That's why you reached a position where everyone's talking about you and seeing you and looking up to you. But Nilima, is it when you're at the top, and especially a woman being at the top, in a top leadership position, is it difficult for the men under her to take directions from her? And we are specifically speaking about a corporate setup here. You would be, and you're smiling when I'm asking you this.
Look, men don't like taking orders, right? I'm sorry to all the men in the room. But look, I have also seen over the period of time, now with more knowledge, understanding, even women do not like taking orders anymore. I don't like taking orders unless until it is relevant and it has some purpose and meaning to it. Having said that, yes, unconscious bias does remain in any work environment, not just corporate, but even non-corporate environment. It's also to do with, we all are very comfortable with what we are familiar at. As I just said, that if I wanted to become a chef, it was okay for everyone to accept it. And whatever order I gave as a chef in the kitchen, everyone would just listen to me. But now I am heading a manufacturing unit, which is manufacturing lithium batteries. And then now everyone on the floor is men. Now it has nothing to do with men and women here, but it's just that you have not seen someone on the floor leading or someone on the floor giving instructions technically so well. Now that could be intimidating for a moment, but the reality is more and more women who are picking up roles, responsibilities with their knowledge, with their attitude, and the behavior which they're demonstrating at the workplace, it's becoming more acceptable, more easier for them to get the things done. Now, there is sometimes where you take orders, there's sometimes where you're not able to convince people to get those work done. So it's more to do influencing it, ability to convince them. What I was just listening to everyone here as well, that sometimes you will have to let go because you couldn't convince, and sometimes you'll have to take it because you just couldn't convince that this is not right. So either you get convinced or you convince. So these are the two ways in which corporate, all the decisions gets taken.
I'd like to add on to that
Sure.
There's a saying, respect is to be commanded, not demanded. But I do differ in that. I say respect is to be demanded, not commanded.
For
so you
women
need to,
especially, I agree
Yeah.
that you have to demand it, that for sure. At corporate, we also say that you have to shamelessly invite yourself into meetings and discussions where you're not asked to attend, but you feel you can add value in.
Dr. Seema, I was reading about you, and what really made me feel proud of is the fact that you are India's first woman commando trainer. But then what I felt a little sad about was that you are the only woman commando trainer. Why is it? Why is that? I mean, why haven't there been more women who are coming into commando training?
So let me just answer this, in a more general way. I think when it comes to any field which is male dominated, women are very hesitant to enter into that field. One thing is because of fear that they may be lesser. And second is because of the tradition of years, the conditioning that women can't do what men can do. So I think these are the two biggest barriers. When it comes to the first one, fear, I'd like to mention that as a youngster, I was afraid of a lot of things. I was afraid of confrontation, water, heights, everything. And another interesting story that I'm going to talk about is my fear of water. I was extremely scared, so I decided to do a course on scuba diving. And I enrolled in for the course. And in the beginning, they take you to the swimming pool, and under the water, they teach you certain things. And then finally, they take you out to sea. So we went out to sea, and I had my BCD and everything put on. And the others jumped into the water, and they disappeared below. And I looked, and I realized that when I saw the water, I was terrified with fear. And I realized that I couldn't do it. So I just told my instructor, this is it. I can't do this. So he said, okay, why don't you just sit? So the boat, it was a big boat. It had a wall. So he said, just sit on that. So I sat on top of that, and he started talking to me about my work, etc. And gradually I kind of relaxed, and I was busy talking to him animatedly. And suddenly what he did is he just lifted my legs up and pushed me backwards. And back I went into the water, straight into the water. And at that time, the water completely engulfed me. And more than that, I think it was a fear inside which engulfed me. It was like in all my senses, and I was petrified, terrified. I was just alone there in the water. And then suddenly I thought to myself, let me just relax. So I relaxed, I calmed my nerves. And then gradually, as I deflated my BCD, I started going deeper and deeper. And what I saw down was so beautiful. I saw colorful fish, flora, fauna, all that there was there. And my fear had actually dissolved into the water. So what I want to say here is that I think the unknown is something that everybody is afraid of. But we need to go into the unknown with a little bit of caution, but boldness. And when you do that, life just opens up its avenues to you.
So what about, Meera, what about the girls who are sitting here who want to take up, and why just girls, even boys who want to take up F4 racing? What is the advice that you would want to give to them? I mean, most of them have heard of this today.
I would just say go for it. A lot of people are scared, and a lot of families are scared to send their kids into motorsport. But I feel, instead of doing rash driving on road, instead of, showing off your fast bikes and cars on road, I would say come up on track and actually drive them to their limits. And it's not just for the guys, it's for the girls as well. If you love anything that comes with speed, just go for it. And not just racing, I would say if there is anything that you love doing, you should go for it. You might, in future live a normal life, do a normal job, but always have that one thing that pushes you out of your comfort zone. And that's what's going to make your life more exciting. And racing is that for me. I am always working if I'm not racing.
That was a beautiful, inspiring session with 3 exemplary women. Let us just give them a round of applause.